Funny Unity tutorial time. Alright, so you guys should already know how to be here, like at the main menu scene here. All you want to do there is go to your Sky and Fire main thing that you downloaded, extract it from the GitHub, go to Assets, go to Scenes, and then open up this, and then click on this little one, the Unity scene file, and that'll boot you up here. So if you wanna actually modify anything, okay, well, let's start off with like how everything's laid out here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Soft objects is where all the Sky and Fire objects are. Like, you got your bombs, which are all the different prefabs for all the weapons, which you can look at here. And you got like rockets, all your fancy stuff you got, and then the ones that you're really going to be looking at are your aircraft here. And so we're going to start with a simple airplane that has no variants, like the D520. So you can look around at this is like the airplane that's going to be in game. This is the prefab, so this is what it spawns in whenever you like do anything. And so like if you really want to, I could like open this up in Blender, but I'm not going to do that because that's kind of just complicated for the purpose of this video. This is just going to be explaining stuff. But if you were to open it up in Blender, you could do what I did for like the where is it, like the Hurricane and the Spitfire, not the Hurricane and the Defiant, like the Defiant here, for example. Which, if you look at the 3D model, like there's no turret here anymore. I extruded this little back bit up and over to the cockpit and blended it in together. So, point of that is it's a little more complicated, but you can get some cool results. And again, this all I did there was change the 3D model, and because of the way it all works. See how I didn't change the collider model, so the collider still looks like it's like a normal canopy, but here it's not, because I was lazy, and it's good enough. So let's go back to the D520 here. Now here's one thing I already did, which was pretty cool, which ended up looking pretty cool. So like, here's like a simple thing. So obviously everything's pretty self-explanatory. You got your nose in the nose section. I'm gonna like close all these down here. The nose section, you got your engine. You got your engine here, which is the engine collider for the damage model, and then here you got the propeller, which is the propeller with all its like the broken bit, the spinner, and all the propeller and all that. So engine here, engine's a preset, so if you want to mess around with the engine power, I think you gotta make a dupe if you really want to mess around. And yep, see here, just duplicate that, screw around with the values if you really want to, same with the sounds. I'm not gonna do that because I'm lazy right now. So let's go here. Now what I want to do is going to like scale the nose to make it a little wider. This isn't the best way of doing it because scaling the nose scales everything in the nose. So like as you can see, the propeller is like really thick, but it's not that noticeable. And plus, so like if we were to do this by 2, we can go back to the propeller here and like do this by 0.5, and now we have it normally the right length. Now if we want to make the spinner longer because we think that looks cool, that's not the spinner, this is the spinner. If we want to make that back to longer length, so let's set that to like 2 again, and now we gave it like a really big long nose, which looks funny. So I'm gonna go, it all lines up properly. I want to go to the nose though, because as you can see here, it's clipping into the fuselage. So this is all in local space here, so if you just drag it up and down, it should slide pretty well against the fuselage. If you wanted to like not have it that way, I think you could click like one of these buttons to get it into world. Yeah, here. And see how that's not aligned with the little center line because of how it's rotated. Back to local. Let's drag this forward a little. I'm not like doing anything fancy here, so it doesn't have to be that precise. Just make it good enough like that, and voila, it looks funny now. And if we really want to do something funny, we can just like duplicate the propeller and drag it forward a little. And now it's like a rotating 2 propellers. It's like a contra prop, I think is what they call them. I'm gonna like offset this one just a little to make it look a little more interesting. And see how that looks a little goofy? What we can do there is we can just like grab a different spinner. So here's where here's all the meshes in the entire like game. And so if you Google like 110, you'll pull up all the different 110 parts, like the 110 spinner down here that I just saw. And I don't think I really want to use that, but if I Google spinner here and pull up a different one, that might work better as a sort of, yeah, something like that, because this one's a lot smaller, so I can scale it up to my needs. and it will not look stupid. It'll act more of like a cylinder than anything. So if I scale this to like 1.75 and the other 1.75 and then drag that back and then extendo this a lot. And now what the heck, let's just make it the new one. Yeah, that looks kind of weird, but I have an idea. I'm just gonna make this one cover up the old one. It looks a little goofy, but I don't really care. This whole thing looks goofy now. Now another thing we could do is you could, like, if you really wanted to, you could make the wings like swept back. Every time I tried to do that, it made like the physics go all wacky and make the plane hard to fly. So, but we can modify the wings a little. So what we want to do, right wing base, and because this is actually kind of handy here, if like this will make the whole wing wide or skinny. So if we want to make it a little longer, make it like high altitude kind of deal, we could do that. And obviously that affects the landing gear, which looks kind of strange. Like, you know, it's going to be way off. It's going to be like a tubular gear. See that? It looks goofy, but again, I don't really care that much, so it'll do for now. And now 1.5, and now if you look here, this is a cool thing. So see how this is 1.44 from the origin here? We can just copy and paste that over here and put a negative in front of it, and now it's perfectly offset like the other wing. Now you might see a problem here. It's like, wait a minute, the wing area, like the little gizmo that shows the actual like wing part that the game's going to be looking at for airfoil stuff, is not the right size, and that's because you got to go to the where are you? It's in here, and it opens up all this stuff automatically, which is annoying. But it's the like wing shape thing, the wing shape object here. So you see this is a hidden, so like it's not a real object, it's like a gizmo, but you can move it around, you can mess around with it and scale it up appropriately, and this will get you the right wing length. So this is actually this first wing section, this little white part right here. And if you scale that up, let's scale that to like a -2, because that gets us decently to where we want to go, to here. But again, it's not perfect, so we got to go to the left wing section number dos, the center one. Close all these things again. Go to the wing section 2, and then we can, yeah, see, you can like change width, all sorts of stuff. Go back to that. Nope, come on. Yeah, there we go. Now we can change that one to something like, yeah, another -2 will work just fine. Let's find that other one for the other wing, so we're not like doing stupid stuff. Not section 3, section 2. Oh, it opened up the, yeah, there we go. This is what we're looking for. 2. Look at that. And now our wing is appropriately long. And we can do the same for the elevators if we really wanted to, and the tail has one too. I don't know why it wasn't showing up earlier, and because I'm just gonna make the tail a little taller for just continuity, because I think it would make sense considering how big the wings are. It might be a little unstable, so we can grab the tail. Actually, why don't we just make the whole tail longer? I think that would look a little funny. So we could like just grab the Z value and stretch it out a little. Maybe like 1.3, not very much, just enough to make it look different. Now with the tail here, you see how that shifted a little weird, but we can worry about that later. So to the fin, yeah, all these got these little names. So right stabilizer, left stabilizer, those are your elevators, your fins, your, you know, vertical stabilizer. Mess around with this stuff. Now, like for example, I'm gonna scale it up, I'm gonna move it up, and there we go. Look at that. Now we got our tail modified, and like the other thing, we can go to the fin, we can go to the fin shape, and then we can scale it, not wide. And that's not working either. X, there we go. We can scale that up too. We can rotate it if we wanted to. That would be weird. I'm trying to rotate it forward a little so we can get it a more like to where the tail actually is. And perfect. And so again, like for example here, look, that's a little funny. It doesn't have to be exact because again, I don't care that much, but like you can change the width here and the angle here. So like if we really wanted to get this looking good, we could like refine it pretty heavily, which you'd probably want to do if you're actually making like a professional mod here. And you know, for the sake of being funny, I'm going to turn all of the guns here into like, actually I'll put a 30 millimeter in the nose just for like showing that off. And I'll change the engine, because why not? So again, all the engine presets are here. If you really wanted to, you could just change it to like a Merlin, like the Spitfire engine, and you're all good there. It'll have like the same water tank and everything, but it should have different engine performance. Engine audio will be changed as well, because that's handled by the engine preset here. Yep. And gun audio, Mac for the, nope, those are the machine guns, Hispanos. So I'm gonna quickly change the gun sounds here. These are all in the AVM panel for all your sounds in the airplane, except for the engine ones. Those are in the presets. So when I go here, I'm gonna crank this up to like 0.6, because 30 cal, or the 30 millimeters heavy gun. Gun loop, I'm gonna look for the Mark 108, I think it was. Yeah, Mark 108 here. Loop cockpit. Oh, that's, so see how you can read that here. We want to look for the loop in the cockpit, or no, the normal loop, then the 108 end, the 108 cockpit loop, and the 108 cockpit end, wherever that is. There we go. And they're different because it'll make the more muffled sounds inside the cockpit. Now let's go actually change the gun now that that's out of the way. Let's look for the nose. It's in here, the 20 millimeter Hispano. Now, for example, we can set the ammo count to something like 100. That does affect your mass a little. I really hope I didn't just, okay. We're good. That affects your mass a little, obviously. You can see it down here. Crank it up to ridiculous amounts. It'll probably screw up your airplane a little. And I'm going to change that back to just 100 rounds. And because, yeah, no gun convergence, because it's a nose-mounted machine gun. We can just go to the presets here and go to the Mark 108 and change that around. Actually, for the sake of cool factor, we're going to make our own custom gun. So let's go to the 108 here. We got this, and let's Control D for duplicating it. So this is the cartridge, actually. So we're going to do both. So we're going to Control duplicate this Mark 109. We're going to make that and rename this to some other funny ammo. And caliber, we're going to make this a, I don't know, let's make it a 45 millimeter just because it'll be funny with a case length of 100 millimeters. It's a heavy bullet, but it is what it is. So let's make this not ridiculous. So set the fire rate to something like 250. All this, you got your muzzle flash. Casings are going to be set to that because that's going to be the same model. I'm not going to mess around with the model, even though if you wanted to make a professional thing, you probably would want to do that. Ammunition here. Now this is where we want to change it to funny ammunition. Material cannon, mass 58. Sure, cool. That think that'll work. Fully auto. Oh, I didn't realize you could change that. So you can make it a semi-auto. That would be weird, but you know, it is what it is. Now we can go here, change this to our Mark 109, and that should now have the ridiculously heavy 45 caliber, 45 millimeter ammunition. Yeah, we can just exit prefab mode and we can play. Look at this. Scroll down to our D520 here. And look at that. Oh, I did not notice the rudder there. That looks a little goofy, but you can kind of see here. We got our funny little airplane going on. It looks a little goofy. That's kind of the point. You got the two propellers. They spin all right. The wings are ridiculously long, and now we can test out our funny gun. Now look at that. We got the audio's not right with the sound because it's just the Mark 108 audio, but you can kind of see there. You can kind of see how big it is and how slow it's firing. Due to those massive wings, this thing is super maneuverable, and I'm like blacking out all the time. I just blacked out now, but I hope you can see how that works. So yeah, go ahead and screw around with the soft GitHub and make your own